Hey everybody, man, this is day 12 of Pray 714. And we're learning how to pray for our world, how to pray for our nation, how to pray for our communities, how to pray for the local church, how to pray for our own lives and our families, especially during this season of COVID-19 and this crisis that our world has been walking through. I love what Paul said to Timothy, his mentee. You find it in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. He says, Timothy, God's not given you a spirit of fear, but he's given you power and love and soundness of mind. See, I believe that God wants you operating on all three of those cylinders. He wants you operating on the cylinder of power. He wants you operating under the cylinder of love. And he wants you operating under the cylinder of a sound-mindedness with a discipline, an intentionality. Let's just briefly hit on those. Power. You know, fear has no authority in your life. And there's not a one of us that can go through this worldwide COVID pandemic and not be in some way jaded by fear. It's in our culture. So we've got to be, as believers, we've got to be brutally honest. Lord, show me any way I'm letting my life be directed by fear and not faith. There's a subtle place where our fear becomes foolishness, or our faith can move into foolishness. And we want to make sure, man, that we're operating the power of God. Second, love. What's that look like? Well, that God wants us to love our local church. He wants us to care so much about the people we worship with that we place them at a priority even above our own lives. Here's what that means. That means I don't want the local church to ever become a hotspot or ground zero for a resurgence of COVID-19. No way. No, I love the people in my church too much for that. And I love the broader community too much for that. So I've got the power, which gives me the boldness to step over the threshold of my fear and meet in person, but I also have the love that brings a guarding of my actions. It tempers my power that is in Christ. And it's this third cylinder that I think brings these two together, and it's called sound-mindedness. And that's what I'm praying for you today, that you know what it looks like to operate in power, to operate with this love for God's people and the community you live in, and it be guided by this sound-mindedness, that you literally, mind is being directed by God, and you're having a plan. See, that's really what that's talking about. When you have self-discipline and you have sound-mindedness, you're not just shooting from the hip. You're not just going with the flow. You're not letting other people lead you. You're actually being methodic. And that's why I would encourage every believer, every family, every church to have a plan as to how they're going to phase back in to worshiping in person with one another. It's God's heart for you to be a person of power and love and sound mind. I'm praying for you today. Just know that. And know this too. You're not alone.